Hello, class, and welcome to week 14. We are almost done with the semester, and so we're fortunate that at least, as we mentioned before, a full strike may occur next semester. I don't know, but for now, we have these 2 days, which are for separate issues, which I've posted. So, I just want to remind you that tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday, what's that, the 27th and 28th, I will not even be logging on to Canvas. I will not be responding to any emails or anything like that. And that's all I can do to support the strike as an online instructor that doesn't live in Modesto. And if you want to do anything, that's up to you. Professors are more than happy to have you show up in support of the strike, but you're not required to, and that's really something that I just want to let you just decide what you'd want to do or not. I realize that some of you may not even support it. In any case, I respect whatever opinion you have on the issue. We're doing what we think we have to do to be treated fairly, and what I think and my colleagues think is a reasonable set of demands. Before I just move on to the content for this week, I'm just going to repeat some things that I mentioned in some of my other announcements, because I'm seeing some response from other people regarding this looming strike that's going to occur starting tomorrow. And it's a little outrageous. So, first of all, I want to make it clear that for those of us who are part-timers, so I cannot speak to full-timers' wages. So I'm just going to talk about what I fully know, and that is what I make, and what my colleagues roughly would be making. Okay, for those of us who are part-time instructors, we almost all universally want full-time. A good chunk of us would have liked full-time, but we're not hired full-time. So the most we can get is 3 classes, or we can get like a large class that counts as like 2. And so in that case, we would be teaching 2 classes that get us sort of paid like we're 3, something like that. But there's a cap in how much we can teach. Doesn't matter what reviews we get or the quality of our work. It doesn't matter. That's where it's at. Okay. Now, I made last month a little under $2,000, and essentially what most of us are making that have 3 classes it's complicated to describe why it changes a little bit here and there or what the pay scale is, but basically you're going to be a little under 2,000 or you're going to be a little over 2,000 for most part-timers. That's it. That's not a lot. Okay. And I'm making this clear so you understand that we're not having unrealistic demands. So most part-timers have to work somewhere else, whether they're teaching at other colleges, they could do that, or other jobs. Like when I was in Portland, Oregon, I worked at a child education center. I literally changed diapers and gave bottles to infants, and sometimes took care of pre-K kids while I was your professor. Then I had another job where I was working at a consignment shop, lifting furniture and arranging teacups, which I actually kind of like that stuff. That's the gangster in me, just like, consignment shop, you know what I'm saying? But that's what I was doing prior to my traveling. And so I want to remind you guys that I'm doing this amazing world travel not because I'm making a lot of money. I figured out how to do something like this. As a single dad, as I mentioned, my daughter moved out with her boyfriend. I got rid of my apartment. I sold most of my stuff, and I got in contact with people and friends and family living in different parts of the world that would let me stay there so I could afford to. So I stayed at my cousin's in Thailand. Here I'm with an old friend, this girl that I've known for years here in Leiden. And that's how I've been able to stay here for so long. And I'm just letting you know that so that you don't feel like you're being taken advantage of by your professors. That, that we're just being paid $1 gazillion and we just want more. And we're going to even turn our backs to our students and pout with a strike that we don't get more. Okay? And I want to remind you this. I don't get paid for making these videos, the time I put in. I don't get paid for grading. I don't get paid for responding in emails or writing letters of recommendation. The pay is only for the time that's allotted for classroom time. So they designate a chunk of that for us in the online and tell you this is the hours you're getting paid for, which is really a salary, right? But it's just like saying, oh, you know, okay, this is what you're getting paid for. And if I teach in a face-to-face class, only the hours that I'm in the classroom I'm getting paid. But most of the time of the work that I'm spending is outside of the classroom environment, right? And I'm not getting paid for that. So then they want to put more work on us that we don't get paid for. So yeah, I have an issue with that. To be honest, if we win the demands of the strike, it's not that I get that much more out of this as a part-time professor in terms of my money or anything. It's just preventing me from having to basically be a volunteer laborer and get so much more students that I'm teaching like a class for free. See? This. So I just want you to understand this. This is what's going on over here. Okay. Now, returning to the subject matter that we're going into, I'm ending on the Reformation, and then we're going to do something very different next week, and then we're going to have our final. Okay. And this is actually how I start off a lot of my other classes. So the Reformation, though, I think is extremely, extremely important. And I think that you can't learn too much about the Reformation. And part of why that is as well is to understand the development of the Western world and why things are the way that they are. I mean, even why is the majority of Americans the original white American culture white Protestant? Why was there such a hostility to there being a Catholic president when Kennedy was running for president? That was a big controversy. So you think of the controversy, you know, I mentioned this in I think one of my lectures, but I like to repeat it. You know, the controversy of Obama being the first non-white man, or the celebration of, you know, the fact that it was a big deal. The fact that there'll be a big deal if we get our first woman president. Being a non-Protestant president was a big deal. And it goes back to these, you know, this division within Europe. And in a sense, what I kind of compare it to is, and it can only be compared lightly or loosely to, the Shiite-Sunni divide in the Islamic world. And some of the issues that are taking place within the Middle East now over religious debates are kind of similar in many ways to what Europeans were slaughtering each other over. And just like then and just like now, it's often elites in power that aren't invested in those ideologies, but invested in using people who care about them to mobilize them and help put themselves in power or something like that. So I do have a cynical view of these things. But I think that people like Luther and John Calvin were very sincere and obviously had a strong passion for their ideas. And we can think favorable of them or we can think very negative of their results. But they sent shockwaves to the Western world. And by default, you could say, you know, the rest of the world. I mean, in a sense, just like now, no human's an island but a piece of the continent. And everything that we do affects the others, just as we've noticed in the last module that we just covered. So I just want to just kind of make that extra clear. And you know, like I said, like right now it's like 5:55 a.m. I think in Modesto, and over here it is like 2:55 p.m. So we do have a time difference. You probably won't be able to get a hold of me today unless in time before the strike. But in 2 days then after that, hit me up with any question and I'll be extra available for you. Okay? All right. Have a great week. We'll be in touch.